The Arctic Expedition Series, Legends of the Arctic, in cooperation with the Yamal branch of the Russian Geographical Society, present. This is a bit of backstory for our viewers. In spring, just over a year ago, the Taimyr deployed our snowmobiles in Dixon and refused Igor Znamensky's crew entry into the territory of Nordenskjold Archipelago. Our captain hasn't abandoned the idea of traveling to the same places that Nansen's famous France. We've spent a year preparing for another campaign. This year, we visited Victoria and Franz Josef Land Islands, modified our equipment, adjusted the gear, and then tested it on the small island of Kutyumov in the Taz estuary. Thanks to long negotiations and adjustments, an exact start time was set for the next expedition. The third marine expedition of the Legends of the Arctic to the islands of the Kara Sea, 2018. At the end of August, we made for Arkhangelsk, where our journey began. On August 24th, we spotted the yacht, the Apostol Andrey, docked at the Red Pier in the center of Arkhangelsk. By marine standards, it's not very large. 4.8 meters wide, just over 16 meters long, displacement is 25 tons, and max speed is 12 knots. It has 2 sleeping quarters and a galley. All in all, it's no cruise liner. The Apostol Andrey was one of the first Russian yachts to travel the perimeter of the Arctic Ocean. A complex set of circumstances has brought 2 captains together, Igor Znamensky, the leader of our expedition, and Nikolay Andreyevich Litau, captain of the small sailing yacht, the Apostol Andrey. Nikolay Litau has 3 round-the-world voyages and 12 tours to the Arctic. In the years of 1996 to 1999, the crew of the Apostol Andrey, with Captain Litau at the helm, were the first in maritime history to sail the Northern Sea route and complete the first longitudinal circumnavigation. Captain Litau has been honored with the Seamanship and Blue Water Medals. By order of the President of the Russian Federation, he was awarded the Order of Courage. In 10 years, the Apostol Andrey has put 110,000 nautical miles astern, been to every continent, traversed all the oceans, and set 5 world records. Nikolay Andreevich and his crew have sailed the yacht from St. Petersburg to Arkhangelsk via the White Sea-Baltic Canal. The delivery crew left the vessel, and the captain took us on board, a trio of amateur radio operators, a cook, and 1 helmsman. The radio operators would have to learn to become the crew. Helmsman Igor Dostovalov, crew role, sailor. Cook Vladimir Kratenko, crew role, cook. Igor Znamensky, expedition leader, crew role, research supervisor. Andrey Korobeynikov, radio operator, crew role, sailor. Mikhail Kutyumov, radio operator, crew role, shipmate. The crew now totaled 6, 5 radio operators and the captain. With this team, we must travel to Dixon, where we'll meet up with 3 more participants. The captain planned for us to set sail on August 27th. We'd worked rather closely with the equipment and gear after our expedition to Victoria Island. This time, our cargo weighed about 800 kilos. We were worried it wouldn't all fit, but we managed to load and secure everything. The captain grumbled a bit that we overloaded the yacht and left no room for the sails. But the cook outdid everyone. In 2 days, he really packed that yacht with provisions, flour, grains, various sausages, and so much more. The captain had begun to stop Vladimir because food was lying everywhere, in the cabins, the pantry, and even in the inflatable boat, which was hanging astern. We can say that everyone on that trip wholly appreciated Vologda's bustle with the provisions. He even crammed food in the cabin, the whole thing. Have to climb over grapes and watermelons to get to his cabin. One of the expedition's highlights was meeting Arkhangelsk's radio operators. Such a warm welcome before a long trip always creates a positive mood. Later, the guys actively escorted us over the airwaves. It was so nice to hear their call signs. On Monday morning, the captain got clearance from the border guards, and we left the port of Arkhangelsk. We entered the White Sea without incident. The cold northern wind immediately reminded us to put on our warm gear. Next stop, Port Dixon. Of course, along the way, we didn't forget the main mission of our trip, radio communication. To work on the air, we set the antenna to 20 and 30-meter bands. The wind was fair, and the captain ordered us to set the sail. All hands on deck. This is where our radio operators realized how difficult a sailor's job is. In strong winds, the sails resisted fiercely, attempting to toss the fledgling sailors overboard. This crew caused our captain a fair bit of grief. But under his direction, the sails took their places in the end, and our yacht sailed with the tailwind, sometimes doing 7-8 knots. The routine entailed shift relief for the helm, and thus began our training at the controls. One would think it would be easy to steer in a straight line and simply enjoy flying over the waves, like in iconic films about seafarers. Turns out, there's a whole science to keeping a yacht on course with sails set. Nikolay Andreevich had this science down to a T, and he was even able to teach novices like us. Simple, everyday life began with piercing winds, heavy pitching, and waves surging onto the deck. Romance. During the journey, everyone closely followed the schedule set by the captain. Breakfast at 07:30, lunch at 13:30, and dinner at 19:30. There were 2 6-hour day shifts, 0800 to 1400, and 1400 to 2000, and 3 4-hour night shifts. We also slept in shifts. Here, we fully appreciated the feats of Nansen and those pioneers who traveled to the Arctic on small wooden schooners with no navigational computers, satellite communications, fathometers, or other modern aids. We crossed 66 degrees, the coordinates of the Arctic Circle, which was a big event on the Apostol Andrey. The captain treated all those who had not yet crossed these coordinates to the seawater from the globe of the signal light. We had to drink a bit of seawater. Pour him some more. 8 days out from Dixon, we hit one small storm, about a force 8, in the Barents Sea. The aftermath was a guy line had been wrenched from the mainmast. In the early hours of September 4th, we entered the port of Dixon. They were expecting us. Port administration permitted us to moor through the floating crane next to a naval ship. Our little mess hall entertained guests from morning until late into the evening. Soldiers, the administration, the crane crew, and ordinary Dixon citizens came to shake hands with Captain Litau, who was famous at these latitudes. Everyone wished us luck and offered to help. Without the guy line we lost the day before, sailing was impossible. But this didn't faze our captain in the slightest. The yacht had a workshop with everything we needed, plus skilled hands. Who was capable of fastening the guy line at the great height of the mast? Igor Znamensky demonstrated circus acrobatic marvels that any aerial gymnast would envy. It was a long-awaited meeting, the arrival of our amateur radio colleagues, Andrey Moiseev, Viktor Kuzyakin, and Igor Kuznetsov. Well, how's it going? Awesome? Nothing special yet. Viktor Kuzyakin, radio operator. Crew role, sailor. Andrey Moiseev, radio operator. Crew role, sailor. Igor Kuznetsov, traveler. Crew role, sailor. It was a meeting of old friends who have journeyed together many times before. Now, the crew is complete. A celebratory dinner from the cook, memories, and plans for the expedition. The next day, September 6th, we took a walk to see all the sights of Dixon. We visited Dixon's Defenders Obelisk, dedicated to the sailors of the Northern Fleet and the soldiers of the People's Militia, who defended the Arctic during the Great War. A granite monument of Tessum stands at the top of a coastal cliff. The inscription, Tessum, Norwegian seaman, member of the expedition MS Maud, died 1920. It was erected in 1958 on the initiative of Soviet Arctic explorers. Part of the wooden cross, the post, is in Dixon, at the site where the Norwegian sailor Tessum died. On the morning of September 7th, the captain gave the command to raise anchor. We were now entering the final stretch to our goal, the islands of the Nordenskjold Archipelago. It was decided that we would first head to the farthest point on our route, Firnley Island. It was more than 800 kilometers away, about 3 days' travel. The weather had changed, with the sun's rays becoming an infrequent guest on deck. Gray skies, the gray sea, the Kara Sea. We had a little more than 70 kilometers left to go to Firnley Islands when the captain announced that a storm was coming, and we could wait it out in the harbor of Tyrtov Island, which we had also planned to visit. The decision was made, and, in the afternoon on September 9th, the Apostol Andrey entered a small, picturesque harbor on the island's interior. If we wanted to hold communication sessions, we would have to move all the necessary equipment to the island. Altogether, it weighed over 700 kilos. The job didn't give us much chance to stay dry. First, we unloaded all the equipment from the hold through a narrow hatch. Then we loaded it into an inflatable boat that the yachtsmen called dinghy. We always bring a weapon with us on expeditions, but hunting is strictly prohibited. Its only use is to fire shots to scare off the natives, polar bears. Even a little rocking makes the loading process a good full-body workout. A heavy generator tries to capsize dinghy and dump us into the icy water. Four or 5 trips, and all the cargo is on shore. We'll carry it to the site later. Tyrtov Island itself is very beautiful. It has that Arctic beauty that has always drawn adventurers here. Truly admirable, it's a magnificent island with dozens of coves. It has an old polar station and a functioning lighthouse. The entire night was spent assembling the antennas. We raised them just as the sky was beginning to grow light. The morning of September 10th, at 1 hour 11 minutes Greenwich Mean Time, was a momentous occasion. Igor Znamensky kicked off the expedition with Radio Ivan 0 Boris.
Japan, America 1, Queen X-ray Yankee. Good morning, you signal for 5959. Asia 121. Asia 121. Yourself?
The entire crew had gathered, and it was silent inside the tent. Japan responded. We congratulated one another. This moment had been a long time coming, and all 3 stations began working simultaneously. After the first hour, the log displayed around 350 contacts. The antennas were spaced 200 meters from one another and able to operate simultaneously on one band with various types of radiation. The third antenna was a multi-frequency vertical antenna, stepper, used for digital communication. With this one strategically placed, the 3 stations worked on the same band without disrupting one another. September 11th was Uncle Misha's birthday. Our crew affectionately called him this because of his seniority, as it were. Uncle Misha's life had been one continuous stream of adventures all over the world. We got very lucky to have this truly sturdy man on our crew, despite his age. The main dish was marinated amul with the numbers 64. This dish was finger-licking good. That's just how our Vologda cooks. On the same day, we affixed a memorial plaque to the lighthouse in honor of Eric Nordenskjold, who, 140 years ago, crossed the North Sea Passage, now called the North Sea Route.
A local decided to visit the uninvited guests after all, and came right up to the tent. We had to scare it off with a gunshot into the air, and His bandy-legged Majesty withdrew to another island. The next day, September 12th, we began breaking camp. We hope this won't be our last visit to this world's wondrous little island. We continued on to Firnley Island. The captain said that we'd be there by morning. Spirits were high. Our first landing was a success. We made almost 5,000 contacts. September 13th, Firnley Islands. We operated according to this plan. Igor Znamensky and Andrey Korobeynikov scouted the area and found a campsite. Then we loaded and hauled, working as usual. We shortened the time it took to mount and set up camp to 3-4 hours. No faster. Firnley Islands, or rather one of them, Yuzhny, evokes strong emotions. It's a small island, 2 kilometers across. Nothing but stone, with flat slabs piled on top of each other. At times, it looked like someone had stacked them by hand. Of course, for antennas, a stone surface is a disaster. The antennas tuned differently. The SWR, which had been 1.1, became 1.7. We tuned them, and we were on the air. Nansen Island. Nansen Island is small and very beautiful, covered in vivid vegetation dotted with large stones. Judging by the tracks present, the island is inhabited by lemmings, Arctic foxes, deer, and bears. A landmark location. Our mastermind, Igor Znamensky, has fulfilled his longtime dream of reaching Nansen Island.
Well, yes, actually. 3 years ago, I had this idea to come to Nordenskjold Archipelago, to Nansen Island. It's a big day. 125 years ago, the legendary Fram passed through this archipelago, and this island was named for Nansen. Emotions? I don't even know what I'm feeling. On the one hand, I guess I've achieved my goal. We're on the island. We're on the air. We're studying the flora, the fauna, and observing what's here. We're seeing the Arctic. The Arctic's changed so much. Captain says this time in 1999 there was ice here. Now we see the beautiful sea, the sun. So everything's changing. It's all changing. Landing went smoothly. We decided to set up camp on the grass, something we later regretted. Our captain determined that we were on a raised bog in the permafrost. The sneakiest part was that the tracks in the grass were slowly filling with water. By evening, our tent was full of puddles, humidity 100%. On the second day of work, serious problems with the generator began. We worked for a few hours without amplifiers, dividing roughly 1 kilowatt between 2 workstations and a stove. For the captain of the Apostol Andrey, Nansen Island is a memorable place. Nikolay Andreevich had already been here, so he cast anchor with confidence in Tyrtov's harbor. Well, yes. It's certainly not my first time here. This place is somewhat historic, because it was here, right in this harbor that bears the name of the Russian adventurer Tyrtov, that the Apostol Andrey anchored 19 years ago. The situation is drastically different from how it was 19 years ago. Then, we couldn't pass the Madison Strait on our own. It was all packed full of ice. Back then, a nuclear icebreaker, the Arctica, led us 20-25 miles through the strait. We were able to pass through the ice only with its help. This year is my 12th already, our 12th Arctic navigation with the Apostol Andrey, and it's the first where I haven't encountered a single piece of ice. It's all cleared of ice. That's how much the Arctic has changed in one generation. It's a real confirmation that warming does exist, although the ice returns from time to time. In 2016, we went out on an English yacht in the Litau Sea. Quite a lot of ice, and we struggled through, but this year, as you see, it just isn't here. So there you go, our 12th Arctic navigation. About 4 kilometers from us is Pravda Island. Part of the group, off their watch duty, made the trip in the dinghy. They saw the polar station there, which was closed in the 90s. These places always carry a tinge of sadness. You always imagine how much work it took to build a house in these places, how much joy it brought to open the station. Life does not stand still. Perhaps one day this experience will be in demand. Igor Kuznetsov. These experiences are the most amazing, of course. Not everyone gets to see these places. Even more so, since they're connected to such legendary names. We made 5,000 contacts on Nansen Island. The team exhaled. Most of the task was over. Our experiences on Nansen Island took our mood from great to superb. Andrey, Korobeynikov. These places never cease to amaze me. On Nansen Island, and in the Arctic in general, there are magnificent places, and I'm glad I visited, seen such nature in my lifetime, and, most importantly, met people like our team. All the guys are just super patient and resilient. I won't say that the journey was easy. We've already spent almost a month at sea and are well used to this life. We left for the Arctic Institute Islands on September 19th. They're not that far from Dixon. The captain chose Bolshoi Island from the Arctic Institute Islands group. We stepped onto a sandbar about 50 meters wide and 2 kilometers long, with about 50 meters of sandy shallows. Everything, like on the best Mediterranean beaches. Mikhail, Kutyumov. This is the last island on our route. Our expedition is coming to an end. We probably crossed a milestone. We made 7,000 contacts from IOTA AS 087, which is a rare location that only 4% of radio enthusiasts have contacted. I'm pleased. I'm glad that I took part in this expedition. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to this island. Until we meet again, until the next expedition. Fortune granted us a team of radio operators who had been on an expedition 17 years ago and worked from the Arctic Institute Islands. In some instances, I duplicated my path from 1995 and 2001. A huge thanks to the sponsors who made it possible to carry this out. I'd go as far as to call this an adventurous undertaking, which we made a reality, to give many operators new islands that haven't radioed for 10, 20, or even 30 years. Who knows how long they'll remain silent? The final island of this expedition delighted us with more contacts. We got the most from this one and registered the most countries. The conditions were amazing. All the continents came in equally loud, no matter which way the antenna was turned. This situation caused a bit of shock at first in the telegraph room. When you hear a powerful call of Russia, R9, come in, then Australia, VK, just as strong, and America, W. You wonder if it's a mistake. Knowledgeable radio operators know about this. Our stay on Bolshoi Island coincided with an anniversary. The Russian Robinson Club was celebrating 25 years. Naturally, we made radio contacts to celebrate the event. We wish to have a good conference, a nice chat, and to make the plans to carry them out. Knowing that Dixon was the last stop on our route, where there was at least internet, we recorded our congratulations to the Russian Robinson Club and sent them to the club's president for the gathering. The crew of Legends of the Arctic, RI-0B, located in a momentous place near the monument to Taimir Begachev, congratulates the beloved Russian Robinson Club on 25 years. We wish the club prosperity and wonderful, good, lovely expeditions. From our team, happy birthday! Hooray! Viktor Kuzyakin. This expedition's on its second year. Finally, we've reached our goal. Our islands are activated. We have another day to work on the air. The entire world is calling us, and many are thanking us for activating these islands. We live here on this earth. This is our home. If not us, someone had to do it. The final hours on Bolshoi Island flew by quickly. We packed all the equipment for the long crossing to Arkhangelsk. So ended the amateur radio portion of our expedition. On September 22nd, we made for Dixon. We arrived in Dixon in the evening of September 23rd. The next day, the two Andreys, Moiseev and Korobeynikov, departed for Norilsk. We got lucky with the weather, and the plane took off after only a small delay. Our crew of 7 left for Arkhangelsk. Instead of 8 days, we traveled for 14. A strong storm kept us from the Kara Strait. We took cover behind the islands. October 8th was a long-awaited day. The Apostol Andrey moored in Arkhangelsk. There, the 3 battered radio operators, Igor Znamensky, Viktor Kuzyakin, and Mikhail Kutyumov, and their Brotherhood cohort, Igor Kuznetsov, went ashore and left for their homes. And the captain hastened the Apostol Andrey home to St. Petersburg. On October 23rd, Captain Nikolay Andreevich Litau completed his 12th navigation into the Arctic. Igor Znamensky's team had visited the 3 seas of the Arctic Ocean, the White, Barents, and Kara Seas, in the 3rd expedition of the Legends of the Arctic to the islands of the Kara Sea. We sailed more than 3,000 nautical miles, or about 7,000 kilometers. We tested all the technical solutions that had taken a long time to prepare. We performed the observations assigned to us by federal reserves and agencies, and activated 4 islands according to the international program Islands on the Air. Different people are always remembered. They just come to mind, who love their hobbies, and I think this is great. A good, very smart beginning and continuation. Good luck to you guys. God willing, this won't be our last expedition, that we'll have enough strength and resources for everything. Most importantly, I hope our team maintains the same course. We can do so much with this team. I'd be extremely happy to see them again. And not necessarily off on expeditions, but in a warm, say, everyday setting. Thanks to everyone who helped us. Thanks to everyone who didn't interfere. See you on the air. 73. Bye. The Arctic is one of the most extraordinary places on our planet. It has attracted explorers in days of old with its austere beauty and still does so to this day. We dedicate all our expeditions to the memory of those pioneers who granted us this land, the real legends, legends of the Arctic. This expedition was carried out with the support of the Minister of Natural Resources and Ecology of the Russian Federation and with the assistance from the administration of the Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous District.